Have you ever felt that quiet, unmistakable shift in the energy of a room the moment you say something truly real? Picture it. You're sitting with a group of people, colleagues, acquaintances, maybe even family. The conversation is easy, light, and utterly safe. It floats effortlessly on the surface of predictable topics. The weather, the maddening traffic, the latest binge-worthy show, the inescapable noise of the news. It's the universal language of small talk, a carefully constructed game of social volleyball where everyone knows the rules. Nod, smile, agree, repeat. It's comfortable, it's frictionless, and everyone is playing their part beautifully. But then you speak. You don't mean to cause a disruption. You simply can't hold it in any longer. You say the thing that's been sitting patiently beneath the surface, the observation that cuts through the polite chatter, the uncomfortable truth that you, for one, can't ignore. And in that instant, the world freezes. It's like a record scratches across a perfectly harmonious melody. The easy laughter evaporates. The smiles become fixed and brittle. The air grows thick and heavy. Suddenly, no one will meet your eye. They study their hands, the pattern on the carpet, a fleck of dust on the table, anything to avoid your gaze. Someone might clear their throat, a sharp percussive sound in the sudden quiet. Another might jump in, desperate to change the subject back to the shallow, safe waters they were just swimming in. The moment passes in a heartbeat, but the feeling lingers. You felt it, that tiny, almost imperceptible rejection. That invisible wall that shot up around you, insulating the group from the raw honesty you just offered. It's a feeling of profound and sudden aloneness, a feeling you probably know all too well. If you know this feeling, it's crucial to understand that it isn't a flaw in your character or a sign that you're somehow broken. On the contrary, it's a sign that you're awake in a world that often prefers to be asleep. Society, for all its praise of individuality and innovation, has a long and tragic history of punishing people who see things differently, not because these people are wrong, but because their truth threatens the comfortable, collective dream of everyone else. It's far easier to silence the messenger than to grapple with the message. Think of Socrates, the father of Western philosophy, who was sentenced to death by drinking poison in 399 BCE. The official charges were impiety, not recognizing the state's gods, and corrupting the youth. But what was his real crime? It was simply asking too many uncomfortable questions. His Socratic method, a relentless process of questioning and logical examination, exposed the ignorance and lazy thinking of Athens' most powerful figures. He didn't claim to have answers. He just revealed that those who claimed to have them were living on a foundation of unexamined assumptions. He held up a mirror. And for that, the city of Athens made him a martyr. Or consider Galileo Galilei, the astronomer who dared to look through his telescope and trust the evidence of his own eyes. In the early 17th century, he promoted the Copernican theory that the Earth revolved around the sun. This wasn't just a scientific disagreement. It was a profound threat to the entire worldview of the Catholic Church, which held that the Earth was the fixed, immovable center of God's universe. The Church wasn't interested in the phases of Venus or the moons of Jupiter that Galileo had observed. It was easier to condemn the man, to find him vehemently suspect of heresy, and to place him under house arrest for the rest of his life, than it was to have their entire reality shattered. Then there was Alan Turing, a mind of staggering brilliance. His work at Bletchley Park during World War II was instrumental in breaking the German Enigma code. Historians estimate his contributions shortened the war by several years. saving countless millions of lives. He was, in essence, the father of the computer you're using right now. And how did the society he saved reward him? They prosecuted him in 1952 for gross indecency because he was gay. Faced with prison or chemical castration, he chose the latter, a brutal procedure that ravaged his body and spirit. His genius, which had altered the course of history, could not save him from society's fear of what was different. He died 2 years later from cyanide poisoning. The pattern is always the same. The visionary is first mocked, then viciously fought. And then, long after they're gone, they are celebrated as a hero and put on a banknote. This isn't just ancient history. No, it's a living, breathing dynamic that plays out every single day. It's happening right now in our schools, where the curious child who questions the curriculum is labeled a problem. It's happening in our corporate offices, where the employee who points out a fundamental flaw in a strategy is seen as not being a team player. And it's happening even within our families, where the one who speaks the unspoken truth about a dysfunctional dynamic is branded the black sheep. It's the constant, subtle, soul-crushing pressure to be normal. It's the implicit, whispered message that echoes through our culture. Don't be too much. Don't feel so deeply. Don't ask so many questions. Shave off your sharp edges. Just fit in. We're encouraged to be unique, but only in ways that are socially acceptable and marketable. Be an individual, but don't deviate too far from the script. But what if this punishment, the loneliness, the misunderstanding, the quiet exclusion, isn't a punishment at all? What if it is, in fact, a test? A psychological trial by fire, designed to see if you have the strength to hold on to your own perception of reality. To understand this trial, we need to look through the eyes of a man who journeyed into the deepest parts of the human soul, Carl Jung. Jung provides a map to understand this painful dynamic not as a flaw, but as a critical stage in a profound journey. What if this pressure to conform isn't something to run from, but is actually a signpost, a beacon in the dark, telling you that you're on the right path? Your path. This journey of descent isn't for everyone. It demands a terrifying kind of courage. It means looking unflinchingly into the dark corners of the world and, more importantly, into the shadowy landscapes of your own psyche. It promises loneliness and misunderstanding. But for those of us on the outside looking in, for the misunderstood geniuses, the quiet outcasts, the deep feelers, this isn't a choice. It's a calling, a non-negotiable imperative of the soul. It almost never begins with a dramatic rebellion. It usually starts quietly, subtly, in the confusing landscape of childhood, with a simple, recurring thought. This doesn't make any sense. You're a child, but you see things with a strange clarity. You watch the adults around you, these towering figures of authority, and you notice the jarring chasm between what they say and what they do. You hear him preach honesty, and then you see him tell white lies to a neighbor. You hear him talk about kindness, and then you witness a moment of casual cruelty. You feel the thick, unspoken tension in a room that everyone else pretends isn't there. And you, in your innocence, you can't help but ask the most dangerous question of all: why? Instead of an honest answer, you're often met with a gentle, or not so gentle, silencing. Don't ask so many questions. That's just the way things are. Why can't you just be like the other kids? These phrases, they're not meant to harm. They're just the tools of a world that prioritizes comfort over truth. So you learn. You learn to stay silent on the outside, to nod and smile along with everyone else. But inside, your inner world catches fire. The questions only get louder, more insistent. This is the core experience, the genesis of the outcast. You see a depth of reality that others miss. and you hear the discordant note of a lie behind a perfectly manufactured smile. When you dare to point it out, the world doesn't argue or engage. It often looks back with a blank, uncomprehending stare. Your depth is mistaken for confusion. Your pointed questions are seen as arrogance. Your profound sensitivity is labeled as weakness or instability. This is a tale as old as time. Think of mystics like Joan of Arc, a teenage peasant girl who, at 13, began hearing the voices of saints. These voices told her to drive the English out of France and crown the rightful king. To her, this was a divine mandate. But to the pro-English church officials who put her on trial, her inner world was a dangerous heresy. She wasn't punished for lying. No, she was punished for telling a truth that was so intensely personal and so politically inconvenient that the establishment had to brand it as demonic and burn her at the stake. Or consider the artist and poet William Blake, who claimed to see angels in the trees as a child and regularly conversed with the spirits of the dead. His contemporaries, for the most part, dismissed him as a madman. His visions weren't just strange. No, they were a rejection of the cold, rational empiricism that was defining his era. He wasn't punished for being wrong. He was punished for seeing a reality that was too vast, too mystical, too personal for the consensus to handle. Today, the punishment is rarely so dramatic. It's quieter, more insidious, and deeply psychological. It's the gifted artist who's relentlessly told they're being irresponsible and selfish for not getting a real job. It's the neurodivergent individual whose unique way of thinking and processing the world is pathologized and medicated into a more normal state of being. It's the deeply empathetic person who's told they're too sensitive and need to toughen up. The punishment is the constant, grinding, atmospheric pressure to abandon what you see with your own eyes and trade your own perception for the one the group has agreed upon. This pressure forces a devastating, soul-splitting choice. Be true to your own perception and risk the profound pain of being alone, or betray your soul for the warm, hollow comfort of belonging. For many, this becomes a slow, quiet death of the spirit, a gradual sanding down of everything that makes them unique, until they fit smoothly into the collective machine. Society pays lip service to the idea of being unique, but it only truly rewards conformity. The nonconformist, simply by existing and breathing their own air, reveals that normal is often just a psychological cage. And people, as a rule, hate the person who shows them the bars of their own prison. The real question is why this mechanism is so powerful and so universal. To understand that, we have to go deeper than history and into the very architecture of the human psyche itself, where the great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung provides the answer. To truly understand why the world so often crucifies those who are different, we have to listen to a man who was, in many ways, an outcast himself, Carl Jung. He broke from his mentor Sigmund Freud because he knew that psychology wasn't just about personal history and repressed desires. It was about the soul, the spirit, and the vast, hidden, mythic world that exists inside each of us. Jung gave us a map of this inner territory, and on that map we can locate the precise source of this deep societal friction. It begins with a concept Jung called the persona. The persona, named after the masks worn by actors in ancient Greek drama, is, well, it's the social face we present to the world. It's the mask of the good employee, the dutiful daughter, the responsible citizen, the friendly neighbor. We all wear a persona. It's a necessary tool, really, for navigating social life, a kind of uniform that allows us to function within the collective. The mask itself isn't inherently bad. The profound danger, as Jung warned, is when we forget we're wearing it. It's when we mistake the mask for our real face. This leads to a hollow, empty feeling, a quiet despair, a sickness of the soul that comes from living an inauthentic life. Society, in many ways, is just a collection of personas, a grand, sprawling stage play where everyone has, well, tacitly agreed to follow the script of how things are done. The genius, the artist, the mystic, and the outcast. They're the ones who find the script nonsensical. Their true self is too loud, too vibrant. It just keeps leaking out from behind the edges of the mask, reminding everyone else that they too are merely performing. And this reminder, it's deeply unsettling. Then there's the fundamental conflict between the individual and the collective. Jung believed that the bigger a group gets, the less conscious and more primitive it becomes. A kind of herd mentality or groupthink takes over, driven by the most basic, instinctual parts of the psyche. The collective mind, it doesn't want the hard, messy, unpredictable work of real growth. No, it wants stability, order, and control. The person who insists on being an authentic individual, who follows their own inner law, is a direct threat to that stability. They introduce an unpredictable variable into a system that craves certainty. So the collective exerts pressure. It tells the individual to dim their light, to fall in line. When they refuse, they're labeled as arrogant, selfish, or rebellious. Punished, not for their actions, but for their very state of being, for refusing to play along with the collective's comfortable game. But the deepest and most powerful reason for this punishment lies in Jung's revolutionary concept of the shadow. The shadow is everything we deny and repress about ourselves. It's the repository for all the parts of our personality we've been taught are unacceptable. Our anger, our envy, our fears, our greed, our secret desires. But, and this is the crucial part, the shadow also holds our greatest strengths, our unexpressed creativity, our raw vitality, our courage, and our untapped potential. Jung said that the shadow contains pure gold. It's the buried treasure in the dark cellar of our psyche. Just like a person, a society has a collective shadow, made up of all the uncomfortable truths it denies about itself, its injustices, its hypocrisies, its institutional cruelties, and its buried fears. The outcast, the genius, the deep thinker, they often, without realizing it, live out the repressed gold of the collective shadow. The passionate artist embodies the wild creativity that the rigid, sterile corporate world has disowned. The whistleblower expresses the uncompromising integrity that a corrupt political system has sacrificed for power. The spiritual seeker embodies the search for meaning that a materialistic culture has deemed naive. When the collective sees you living out this truth, it's forced to see what it is buried in itself. This triggers a violent psychological defense mechanism. Projection. Projection is when we attribute our own unacknowledged qualities onto others. It's far easier to attack the arrogance in the genius than to face our own cowardly refusal to pursue our own brilliance. It's easier to condemn the irresponsibility of the artist than to confront the quiet despair of our own unlived creative life. We don't punish the genius because they're wrong. We punish them because their very existence illuminates our own refusal to grow. You become the scapegoat for their unlived life. The pressure to be normal, therefore, is immense. But Jung issued a stark warning. While you can certainly become neurotic for failing to adapt to society, you can become just as neurotic by being too normal. For some of us, the unconventional, misunderstood path is the only path to true sanity. So, how do you survive and even thrive in a world that often fears the very essence of who you are? The answer isn't to declare war on the world, nor is it to retreat into a fortress of bitterness and resentment. The answer, according to Jung, is to turn inward and begin the most sacred and important journey of your life, the process of individuation. Individuation is the journey of becoming who you truly and fully are. Underneath all the social masks, the childhood wounds, and the collective pressures. It's the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious parts of your mind to become a whole unified being. The pain you felt from not belonging has not been meaningless. It has served a critical purpose. It broke your unconscious attachment to the collective trance and forced you, out of necessity, to look inside for your own answers. The first step is to fundamentally reframe your pain. The loneliness, the ridicule, the feeling of being an outsider, these are not a punishment for being wrong. They are the friction that proves you are moving against the current. They are the cost of admission for an authentic life. This pain is the confirmation that you are not content to walk the well-trodden path, but are instead carving your own. This journey demands the courage to consciously face your own shadow, to turn around and look at the parts of you that you've been taught to despise. It means developing the self-awareness to ask, when you feel a powerful judgment or hatred for another person, what part of myself, what buried piece of my own shadow am I seeing in them? By doing this, you stop projecting your demons and begin reclaiming your buried gold. As you do this work, you start to operate from a new center of gravity. Jung called this center the self, your true indestructible core, the organizing principle of your entire psyche. The self is not the ego. The ego is the center of your conscious awareness, but the self is, well, the center of the total personality, including both the conscious and the unconscious. It is your inner authority, your God within. When you begin to live from this place, the world's praise and its punishment no longer have the power to define you. You can wear the persona when you need to function in society, but you'll never again mistake it for your true face. This is real freedom. It's a quiet, unshakable, grounded autonomy. Jung argued that it's only the true individual, the one who has undertaken this journey, who can make a real and lasting contribution to the world. The innovator, the artist, the leader, and the visionary all need this period of separation. They must step away from the known to venture into the unknown and then bring back something new and vital for the collective. If you feel like an outcast, try to understand the profound meaning of where you stand. You haven't been cursed. You've been given a difficult but sacred task. The pressure society exerts upon you is not a judgment on your worth. No, it's an invitation. It's the alchemical fire that forges the individual soul. We began by asking why the world punishes its deep thinkers, its geniuses, and its outcasts. The answer, we've learned, is that this punishment it's a defense mechanism of a frightened collective. It's the knee-jerk reaction of a world that attacks anyone or anything that reminds it of the truths it has chosen to ignore and the potential it has failed to live. But this punishment, this exclusion, it's not an ending, it's a beginning. It's the universe's harsh but effective way of issuing a call to the journey of individuation, an invitation to become the person you were always meant to be. This path is not the easy one. It is, by definition, the road less traveled. It demands that you learn to make peace with loneliness, that you find the courage to face your own darkness, and that you willingly sacrifice the fleeting comfort of being liked for the solid, unshakable ground of being real. To the genius, to the artist, to the misfit, to the sensitive soul, to the one who feels everything so deeply, your perception is not a pathology. It is a precious gift. The friction you feel with the world, it's not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are truly alive. Do not let their fear become your prison. Do not allow their limitations to define your horizon. Do not trade the pure gold of your soul for the cheap, flimsy approval of the crowd. The world does not need more conformists, more echoes, more people who have successfully sanded themselves down to fit in. The world desperately needs more authentic individuals. Individuals who have had the courage to go into their own depths and bring back their unique truth. In the end, society's punishment of the genius, well, it's its greatest and most tragic mistake. But for you, the individual, that can actually be the start of everything. Remember Carl Jung's profound words. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Your journey, your difference, your unique and precious inner world, that is not your crime, it is your privilege. And I know this journey well. These aren't just words I'm reading to you. No, they're the map I use every single day. Because I'm on this path, right here, with you.